of us we were waiting for has come. As already announced, our special guest for the talk is Ms. Karuna Gopal, President, Foundation of Futuristic Cities, and she would be talking about role of students in building New India. Now, before ma'am gives her talk, may I request Ram Kulesh Thakur sir to introduce ma'am to all of us. Ram Kulesh sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Very warm welcome, a very warm good morning to all of you over here, especially our invited guest, Ms. Karuna Gopal, madam. Now, I welcome you all to yet another episode of Orientation Program 2020. And I like, as you all are aware, this Orientation 2020 would be talked for long. And the one prominent reason being it is held in the backdrop of COVID-19. So now we try to make the most out of it, as being virtual has a lot of advantages. And one such advantage is, like, we have got to hear now, this Orientation 2020 is in itself enriched, enlightening, encouraging, ecstatic, exuberant, and all-encompassing texture. The multiplex dimension it has displayed is undoubtedly a result of the presence of eminent personalities from different walks of life, sharing their views, experiences, and more importantly, their vision with all of us. Now, these myriad hues infuses a strong current of motivation into the budding technocrats who are all set to leave an indelible mark in the area of science and technology. Adding to the richness of this orientation, we have with us another renowned international figure, a leader, a visionary, an acclaimed smart city builder, and the founder president of Foundation of Futuristic Cities, Ms. Karuna Gopal, as our keynote speaker for this session. Now, she has been the think tank that has influenced urban transformation in India for more than a decade now. If I go on talking about her, it would be endless, as there is a lot to talk. So I like to cut it short by saying her work is at the intersection of technology, innovation, and future cities. Her valuable inputs on smart governance has been accepted considerably by the governments of USA, Sweden, South Korea, UK, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Singapore, Turkey, and Israel. She is one of the prominent team members contributing immensely to the design of 100 Smart Cities mission of India. She also served as an urban expert for the World Bank, Department for International Development UK, United States Agency for International Development, and Asian Development Bank. Ms. Gopal was a member of the Speaker Delegation on Smart Cities at COP21, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Paris 2015. She served as Senior Advisor, Union Ministry for Housing and Urban Affairs on behalf of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She also served as City Representative of Council for Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, Illinois, USA for India. She continues to be a special invitee to meetings of foreign institutional investors exploring investments into India. She is widely published, and her articles have been incorporated into parliamentary documentation of Lok Sabha for their policy relevance. Her current initiative, SURGE stands for Smart Urbanization Reinventing Growth with Equity, is all about transformative policies for ushering a new India. So let me take this opportunity, and I'm really delighted to welcome Ms. Gopal on behalf of the SRM AP University. And may I please request Ms. Gopal to enlighten all of us with her vision. Please, madam, over to you.
Thank you, Professor, for a great welcome in the morning. So let me start by thanking the Vice Chancellor of SRM University, Professor V.S. Rao Garu, who's such a renowned person, a person with the heart in the right place, to have sort of bringing me on board to give this lecture. I must also congratulate the freshmen, the students that have just stepped into the portals of the university. my congratulations and also my best wishes with you. So today I take this opportunity to talk about the vision of the Prime Minister to build a new India. So New India as a concept has been written about, and the Honorable Prime Minister has spoken about it at many platforms. But to nuance it, to really talk about the simple things that give a sense of what could be my role in building a new India to young people like your students would be a great opportunity for someone like me. So let me just set the initial context, because as I said before, the Prime Minister believes a lot in the youth of the country. He believes that it's the youth of the country that are going to get this nation future ready and take it forward and ensure that India enjoys geopolitical prominence. And on he talks about the power of youth. So let me just also set the context why India is ready now for dreaming big and dreaming of new India. As all of you know, that the 19th century was the century of Europe. Europe prospered phenomenally in the 19th century. And the 20th century was the century of Americas. So Americas prospered phenomenally, grew in large numbers. The GDP growth was very high. Politically, there was enormous amount of clout. So economic growth and political clout was there for Americas in the 20th century. The 21st century, my friends, belongs to Asia. The 21st century is understood to be the century of Asia. And in Asia, for a long time now, the world has been talking about the Asian tiger countries. What are those Asian tiger countries? India and China. Till recently, China was considered to be a giant in the tiger countries. But in the last few years, if you see, China has been very turbulent. China has been losing its economic strength. In fact, there was a time when China very recently went to IMF to borrow a huge amount of money for basic survival. It's not only that. In the recent past, thanks to coronavirus, China has become the biggest enemy of the world. Now look at the other Asian tiger member, India. India, in the last few years, let's say 5-6 years, we have seen enormous amount of transition and development. At one time, India was considered to be a part of BRICS nation. Brazil, India, Russia, China. We were a part of that BRICS bloc. But today, India belongs not to the BRICS bloc, but India belongs to TIPS bloc. What is TIPS? Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and Singapore. Now one might ask the question, these are small countries, right? So if India belongs to this group, what is the uniqueness of India? Let me tell you that these small countries are growing at a phenomenal pace. They're growing very fast. And India is matching the pace of these small countries. So that's the smartness of India. So India has a great potential and started enjoying it. Now, with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a great visionary leading the country, India's aspirations have grown phenomenally. Now we want to aspire and we want to become a $5 trillion economy. No one thought of that. We want to get into the geopolitical space and make a mark there. And that is exactly what is happening. During COVID, the so-called developing nation like India has supplied medicines across the world. The world is looking at India model of resilience. So a lot of things are happening in the global arena. And that's why I wanted to set the context that the new India that I'm talking about there is a distinct possibility that it's going to happen and happen very soon, for which we need the help of young people, the youth of India, to step in and contribute proactively. Now, let me talk about the small things that as students, what you can do. Now, if we analyze what is the vision of the Prime Minister in the New India, it's not written anywhere, but if you really analyze Prime Minister's speeches, he uses 5 words, and I picked up those 5 words to share it with you. He speaks about fearlessness. He speaks about fearlessness. He speaks about being fierce or fearsome. He speaks about being future ready. He speaks about being fit, physically, emotionally, spiritually fit. And the 5th one he speaks about is exercising free will. Exercising free will. So these are the 5 things that repeatedly I hear in Honorable Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat speeches, or the speeches he gives in educational institutions, or any opportunity he gets to talk to the youth of India. As I said, he has enormous faith in the youth of India. So by default, he has faith in you. You are freshmen. You just stepped into the portals of a university, something that you should treat like a temple. If you follow Prime Minister, I remember when he was first stepping into the parliament after becoming Prime Minister, he prostrated, he touched the steps to his forehead. And I think as students stepping into the portals of a university, that is eventually going to be your temple of learning. You have to do the same, because you're the key people. You're going to play a fantastic role in building this new India, which is going to be globally playing a great role. In fact, today we are celebrating the birthday of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyaya, a senior-most leader of the country, who back centuries ago talked about India becoming a Vishwaguru. He dreamt that India should reach that level where everybody is going to look at India as a beacon light of hope. And today we are fortunate to be speaking on his birthday. Now, to elaborate these 5 simple things that Prime Minister repeatedly says, let me take fearlessness. In India, for centuries, for decades, we have always been fearful. Why is that so? We were fearful because India was subjugated by the British. We were made into a colony and we were pretty much slaves to the British. Much before that, the Mughals invaded us and plundered us. So India's collective psyche was that of fear. So India, to a large extent, behaved like what we call as learned helplessness. In fact, you and I also, your parents, your grandparents, maybe my parents, maybe me, also were fearful because we learned one very bad thing. It's called learned helplessness. Now, what is that? It is, they give ask a psychologist, he explains it to you. He says that if you take a baby elephant and tie it to a tree, the baby elephant tries to escape. It tugs at the rope, but because it is so small and helpless, it can't break the rope. So it gets tied there. It is imprisoned. The elephant stops trying because even when the elephant grows very big, such a huge mammoth it becomes, it stops trying to free itself because it remembers the past that when it tried, nothing happened. It couldn't succeed. So even as a big elephant, it remains helpless, stays there. All it has to do is tug now. All it has to do is give a hard tug and it will be free. Unfortunately, in India, thanks to the repeated invasions of Mughals, the Muslim rulers, and the British that subjugated us, most of us have given up hope of dreaming big. So when the Prime Minister says, be fearless, he's telling you, stop being the helpless little elephant. Try now, because we can conquer the world when we break free. I'll give a simple practical example. When I was 23 years old, I was invited to be a part of the public policy panel of CII, Confederation of Indian Industry. I was barely 23, right out of college, and just launched my career in the IT profession. And they embarked on a project called one mentoring project for entrepreneurs. I'm talking about like maybe 30 years ago. So when they launched this program, they said, we are allotting mentors to everyone. Karuna is the youngest member, so she may not take any, she may be too young to mentor someone. But I said, no, I want to mentor someone. So they attached this girl called Aisha. She was a Muslim girl, and they attached her and said she wants to be an entrepreneur. Give her as much guidance as possible. So when she started talking to me, she explained that she wanted to be a tailor. Now I'm talking about 30 years ago. Please pay attention, 30 years ago. She wanted to be a tailor. She wanted to become independent. She wanted to be an independent entrepreneur. So when I checked her background, she has 6 siblings. She has some 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and she's the eldest one. Her mother passed away long back, and her father was an alcoholic. He would never educate them. He would never give them food. He used to torture them, harass them, and she suffered for such a long time that she decided that she's going to become an entrepreneur, support her family. So fearlessly, she came seeking the opportunity. And as luck would have it, she got a young person, almost her age, me. And we would sit down and chalk out a plan. What should be her clothing line? Where should she source her material from? Who would be her potential clients? What will give her large returns and low input cost? So we explored a lot. And it was amazing. In a shortest time, in 6 months, she created a small clothing line for uniforms. Then she started getting uniform orders from schools. Then you see her house. Once I went there to check what is happening, she turned her entire family, her sisters and brothers, into a complete assembly line. She was the master. She would design, cut the clothes. Somebody would stitch the buttons. And, each child had a responsibility. Like in a typical factory, they were doing the assembly line function. It's completely amazed, 30 years back. And this girl, because she was fearless, her income touched 6 lakhs per annum. So she was earning 50,000 a month 30 years back. And when she continued her progress, she was shortlisted for the J.R.D. Tata Award for Entrepreneurship. Imagine a girl who came with nothing in her hands and just a vision and being fearless. She went on to winning the J.R.D. Tata Award for Entrepreneurship. And I myself, being a mentor, was honored for her hard work. Now, this is what is fearlessness. Now, as students, you have to start thinking about being fearless, because the opportunity comes to people only when they try. And only when you're fearless can you contribute to New India. There is this small story that everybody talks about. They say that the frog in the well story. So when the frog fell into the well, there's a rabbit standing outside and keeps asking the frog, jump out, jump out. So it tries to encourage her as much as possible. But the frog keeps trying, it is not able to come out. And after a lot of trials, the rabbit comes out with a plan, and it just shouts loudly saying that there is a snake in the pit. The minute the frog listens that there is a snake in the pit, it jumps that high and comes out. There's actually no snake in the pit. It was the crisis that was created by the rabbit very intelligently, just to show the potential of the frog. Now today, if you analyze, we are going through COVID times. Coronavirus is the crisis that we are all experiencing today. And haven't you started noticing how resourceful we've become? Have you ever realized that we would be sitting across TVs and having a discussion and an intellectual discussion about how to build a new India? We are stretching our imagination. We are stretching our resources. We are repurposing our resources. For instance, the room that I'm using as my office room, if you can see at the back, is actually my studio. This is where we paint. This is where we put up our artwork. But I've converted it into an office. We have repurposed a room, a studio, into an office. So crisis makes you repurpose yourself. You can repurpose anything. Like you can repurpose a mobile phone and make it into things that you can't even imagine. Initially, mobile was meant to speak, but today we are taking pictures. We are even using mobile to do this conversation. Repurpose, my friends, please keep it in mind, is a powerful tool that we have. Never believe that a product is only meant for only one thing. So new Indians think differently. New Indians have to think of different ways of putting to use a product that they have, a skill they have, a thought they have, a resource they have. And all this will come from being fearless. The minute you're fearful, there's nothing that you can achieve at all. In one of the last webinars, I was talking to a bunch of students and I came out with this concept of consumers and prosumers. So we work in the area of smart cities and we discuss about smart grids. A consumer is who? Someone who consumes something. So I gave an example to the students, which I'd like to give you also. When a house that you live in is consuming energy, it's called a consumer. So we take electricity, we use it. But when the electricity you generate using a solar panel, you generate more than necessary. So you use it, but you have extra power, and that power goes back to the grid. It can light up the houses of the neighbors. That is called a prosumer. You're no more a consumer. You produce and you are giving it back. So you're a prosumer. So my advice to you is, you are today consumers of knowledge. Your gurus, your teachers, they come and they continue to give you knowledge. But I suggest that you become prosumers. You gather so much of knowledge, but you have to give it back to others as well. Please do that, because a new Indian is meant to do that. Now the next thing that Prime Minister always talks about is being future ready. So how can anyone be future ready? So I thought about it several times, and what comes to my mind is, you're future ready if you have understood, analyzed your past and your present. So if you want to really work for a better India, you have to know the past of India, the past glory of the nation. I can't tell you about, you must know what kind of a civilization India was, what kind of tradition and culture we had, what kind of mathematical geniuses were born in this country. You know about it. Now, just few things that you need to know is, in Indonesia, they practice something called Agnihotra farming. So what is Agnihotra farming? So I was told by an Indonesian, very proudly, he explains. He says, Madam, when our farms are not yielding good crop, we practice this Agnihotra. They do a homam, a havan in the farm. And when they use the herbs, the wood, and they burn it, the earth becomes extremely fertile. 5 miles down, it fertilizes and makes the soil fertile. And 5 miles above, it cleanses the environment, the entire perimeter of 5. So he says that crops started coming with quickness and everything was healthy. And that's why without fail in their farms at 6 o'clock in the evening, they do Agnihotra. Agnihotra. Where did it come from? It came from India. Now, not many people know this unless you know the background of your own country, the greatness of this great nation. You can't be future ready because you don't even know your past. The other example is I met a few Russian boys. They were chanting Rudram. To be honest, I myself do not know how to chant Rudram without looking at the book, the Rudram Namakam Chamakam. And out of curiosity, I asked them this question. I mean, what is this? I mean, you are Russians. So they explained to me, they said that Russian scientists have done a research and they discovered that by chanting Vedic chants, you can correct your DNA. Most of us have genetic problems. Most of us have, as we grow, we have genetic mutations. In fact, if all the Alzheimer's, the Parkinson's, the dementia, all that we see today could be a result of a mutation as we keep growing up and aging. Now they say that it's completely reversible because they are chanting. Now, where did the chants come from? Vedic chants. They came from India. In fact, the other day I was talking to an immunologist. You know, this immunologist was talking about 2 very important things. He said, ma'am, to take care of your son's health, you have to give magnesium. And magnesium doesn't absorb straight away in the stomach. So give transdermal magnesium. So take some magnesium oil and put it on the skin and it will absorb. So he's a doctor and he's guiding me. He told me 2 things. He said, put this and also give raw banana flour for resistant starch in the stomach. So I asked him, do you have 15 minutes? He said, yes. So I asked him one small story. I said, have you read Siva Purana ever? So he said, no. So in 15 minutes, I explained to him. In Siva Purana, there's a story of an old Brahmin called Chandra Sharma. So this gentleman is an old Brahmin and he's leading his life. Then one day when he opened his door, he saw a soldier who was dead, like, soldier's dead body outside his house. And when he saw, he panicked and he saw he's dead and he went inside to maybe call someone for help to take away the body. But Chandra Sharma's daughter, she saw him and saw that soldier was so handsome, so well built, so glorious face-wise. And she said, oh my God, such a young man. And she maybe fell in love with him. And she said, I have to revive this man. And you know what she did? She went inside, took curd rice. She took soft curd rice and applied the curd rice from head to toe to that man and requested her father not to disturb, and because she has an intention to bring him up alive. She continued this process, and the 4th day he sat up completely. You know why? The curd had the amino acids that would revive the body. Even today, Western scientists are telling us in India why Tair Sadam, the curd rice that we eat, is irreplaceable. It has certain amino acids that no other food product has. So where was this knowledge? Where did this come from? This not foreigners who given us. It is from our ancient Upanishads, like a Siva Purana. Now, similar stories of resistant starch. What is resistant starch, my friends? Today, you talk to Western doctors, everybody is saying resistant starch. Where is it from? It is what we eat. The ganji is resistant starch. It just completely goes into your digestive system, ferments there, gives food to the good bacteria. And when the gut biome becomes better, gut is a second brain. So you start thinking well, your brain works well, and that's it. And whose knowledge is this? Indian knowledge. So you cannot be future ready, my friends, unless you have a great knowledge of this great nation. Now, what do you do with this knowledge? Now, here I'll borrow from the Shakti principle. Whenever you do prayers to Shakti, we always think of Shakti in the form of a triangle. So, on one side of the triangle is Jnana, the knowledge, whatever knowledge we acquire from our universities, degrees, teachers, parents. The other side of the triangle is Ichha. Whenever there is knowledge, there's a desire. For instance, if I have the knowledge of driving a car, let's say, there's a desire to drive the car, right? I can't just stick to the knowledge of fit and relax. No, there's a desire to do something, so that Ichha. But you have knowledge, you have desire to do something with the knowledge. Unless you act on that, you cannot become powerful. So it is called Kriya, action, Kriya Shakti. So that is exactly what our Prime Minister wants us to do. And he is looking at good knowledge for you in educational institutions. He is requesting you now to get into action, in the sense he's created those Atal tinkering labs, where all of you have opportunity to go into a lab, experiment with things, come out with those small gadgets, whatever can change the current way of living, whatever you can do to change this world, he's giving you those opportunities. So I'll give a couple of examples. There's one interesting example I read was in Taiwan. What happened in Taiwan? There is a small town which was losing its economic strength. So it was becoming poor, let's say. And the mayor thought of, how to revive the economy. And he did something phenomenal. Maybe, he and Honorable Prime Minister Modi were soul buddies, maybe. He thought of reviving the ancient skill and knowledge they had. So he came to know that his Hsinchu town in Taiwan was very famous for glass making. And he looked around and asked all the entrepreneurs, are you into glass making? Nobody was making glass. And he said, this is not done. So he got in touch with some old senior people, dug up the books and got the knowledge of how to make glass. And he created open spaces. In our cities, there are open spaces everywhere. There is a park that is unutilized. There's open space with a fence that says government land, don't touch it. He got all the children there and started these small craft classes, how to make glass. And people started enrolling. Then they started playing with glass, making different sizes, shapes, colors, everything. It reached a stage where the economy improved because they were selling glass. There were many entrepreneurs that were into glass making and started exporting. And the research was phenomenal because they came out with the world's first quadruple glazed glass. What is quadruple glazed glass? A glass that helps the environment, environmental protection. You use that glass, then you're not messing with the environment because it takes care of your home in a natural way. So this, what started as an experiment in an open space, created entrepreneurs, created money, and finally the research project helped the world. So this is exactly how Prime Minister Modi is also talking. He says that experiment, become future ready. To become future ready, you need to know your past. Take pride in the past of the country and then get into the future by using your hands, your brain, get skilled and start working. Now, one important example I'd like to give. Some time ago, I saw an interview in BBC So there's this boy who's like 19 years old. He was interviewed in BBC. And why was he being interviewed? Because he came out with a bottle. You fill water in the bottle, and after you drink water, the bottle also you can eat. He discovered it because he thought that we are polluting the environment. We are polluting the environment like so much. And he wanted no plastic material, and he created this with what? Algae, seaweed. And as you know, seaweed is such a nutritional food, highly nutritious. And he says, you drink water and eat it up. And when they checked his age, he was like 19 years old. So in BBC interview, they asked him, you're so young and you actually discovered something, invented something. But people of your age are like going to pubs and doing fast car driving, rash driving, etc., hanging out with friends. So he says, the world is on the threshold of destruction thanks to climate change. The world is at the threshold of destruction because of climate change, and youngsters like me have to help the situation. So imagine a young boy who's like 19, maybe some of you are 19, or you could be 19 in the coming 1-2 years. He's actually become an inventor. So the average age of invention has come down. I have hundreds of examples, but I also heard that Ramesh Loganathan is talking to you. So he'll tell you about startups. He'll give you examples of, what young people are doing. Just yesterday, there were 2 people who research scholars from IIT who came visited me. They're working on artificial intelligence. And they came asking me if I could guide them on how to use artificial intelligence and for COVID detection. So nobody is sitting quiet. Everybody is wanting to contribute. They want to get future ready. And this is exactly what our Prime Minister wants. So let me also take you to one important aspect. As students, I have seen, when you enter the portals of a university, you want to excel. You want to excel. You study, you compete, you excel. But please keep this in mind. Individual excellence is good, but collective excellence is what you should hope for. Individual excellence is very good. Compete, but compete with your own self. I don't remember some management guru used the word sarpetition. He said competition is with others. Like I get A grade, somebody gets A++, then you compete with him. But supposing you compete with your own self, you got A and you want to better that A, that is called sarpetition. So you stretch your own strength, potential, and move to the next level. So kindly keep that in mind. Competition is good, but teamwork is better. And like if you watch movies like Mangalyaan and all that, you will know the importance of teamwork. How much ever you are good at an individual level, unless you team up with people, your goal cannot be reached. You have to work as teams. So please learn that. And the other important thing when you enter a university is something that I wish to tell you. All of us tried it and we made fools of ourselves, I'd like to tell you. These days, thanks to technology, you have access to every kind of information. And you have this urge to test your gurus. You have the urge to prove that you are better than your gurus. I have seen that trend. When we never had access to internet, I remember buying books from all over the world and reading up ahead just to prove that I knew better than my professor. It was a wrong thing. You should not do that. As a senior, I'm telling you this. So remember only one thing. I'll give you a Sufi story. This story is about, there is this boy who wants to test the smartness of his guru. So he wants to prove that his guru is not smart. He wants to prove that his guru is not smart. So he goes with a bird in his hand. He hides the bird at the back and goes to his guru and asks him this question. Guru, sir, is the bird in my hand alive?
Or dead?
If he says it's alive, He's going to kill the bird and show him it's a dead bird and he's wrong. And if the guru says the bird is dead, he's going to show the live bird and say, hey, you're wrong again, it's alive. Okay, that was his master plan, or he thought. So he went with the bird and stood like that and asked him, Master, I have a bird in my hand, is it alive or dead? The guru looks at him and he says, son, the answer is all in your hands. The answer to that is all in your hands. So the guru is always smarter. Never ever try to prove a guru wrong. He may, when he's taking a class in the limited 45 minutes, he may not explain everything, but it doesn't mean he doesn't know. So try to be as humble as possible and try to be as good as possible, and you can move forward. Okay. So I think I'm coming to the end. I'll just close by giving one conclusion, kind of a closing. In this, I'd like to say that following dharma is very important. You know, your success depends on how dharmic you are, because the universe, my friends, is a very interesting place. When in Vishnu Sahasranama, there are two words I'd like to borrow and explain this concept to you. When we praise Vishnu, we call him Bhaya Nasanaya, someone who removes your fear. Immediately we praise him by saying Bhaya Karakaya, someone who instills fear. What is this? On the one hand, you are saying he removes fear. On the other hand, you are saying he instills fear. How is it possible? Possible because of who you are. If you are a dharmic person doing the good things of the world, wanting to help yourself, help your family, help society, help your institution, and help your country and build a new country, then he is going to take away all your fears. But if you're an anti-national, you want to destroy this country, you want to create hell for your parents or your teachers or anyone, he is going to really instill so much of fear that you regret that you were ever born. Now, this is the law of the universe. Tread on the dharmic path. And this is the message of the Honorable Prime Minister as well. So let me conclude by saying that your role in building New India is phenomenal. Every little thing that you do fearlessly with a lot of courage, you are going to build this new India. I remember seeing there's this girl in a pharmaceutical lab. She was a scientist, and I asked her, what do you do in this lab? So she looked at me and she said, ma'am, I mix chemicals. I said, what is your role? She said, I mix chemicals. She doesn't know that her role is so important. She thinks she's just mixing chemicals. She doesn't know that the chemicals go into formulations, they go into generic drugs. The drugs heal people in India. They go out of the country, heal people from across countries, different ethnicities, and she's a part of this great healing system. She thinks she's just mixing chemicals. So remember, your role can be very powerful. You do a small thing today, good for the nation. Tomorrow, when India becomes a geopolitical leader and the world looks up to us, India becomes a Vishwa Guru, then your role would have been a part of having created that Vishwa Guru, the new India that Honorable Prime Minister aspires to create, and he looks at you as the architects of new India. So let's start by following these principles, what I mentioned about fearlessness, courage, vision, everything, and lay the first brick of new India. Thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was sheer delight listening to you. I'm sure all the students enjoyed listening to you as much as I did, ma'am. If you permit, can we take a few questions from the students?
Of course.
Thank you, ma'am. The first question is by Shivanshu. He wants to know how blockchain can help build smart city.
Hello. Where's he?
He wants to know how blockchain can help build smart city.
Sorry, I can't see him. So blockchain, my friend, has a great potential. In fact, in India, I think your state, Andhra Pradesh, I think has done a great amount of work in blockchain. Smart cities, there is every opportunity, not only in smart cities. Smart cities is just a small thing. Let's take the entire country governance. Blockchain is going to have a phenomenal role in creating transparency, efficiency, and output orientation. So not only in smart cities, it's relevant everywhere in country management, in everything, that every act that we want to accomplish with absolute efficiency, quickness, and transparency. I think blockchain is the best way.
Second one is a thank you message for you. It says, "Thank you, ma'am. Your speech was very inspiring." Next is a question by Gautam. He says, "Ma'am, our past is pretty glorious. How would you rate a current and present situation?"
Okay, so past is glorious. The present can only be better than the past if only you paid attention. We always tend to, this concept of mindfulness. What is mindfulness? In Japan, they have a concept called Muga, M-U-G-A. When they drink tea, they pay attention to only drinking tea. They pay attention to the act of drinking tea. So when you pay attention to the present, you know how good the present is. Unfortunately, we tend to also focus on things that are not very pleasant, and therefore we get disturbed. So my suggestion to you is be as present, be as mindful of things, and then you'll start looking at the best. When you see good things, you want to act on those good things. When you see a good person sitting next to you, you feel inspired. When you look at a horrible fellow sitting next to you, you feel depressed and you might end up doing something wrong. So being mindful, being present in the present will greatly help you. And that's why the most efficient country in the entire world is Japan. Today, my friends, Japan's focus on artificial intelligence. Each country is looking at artificial intelligence and their deployment in different areas. It's only Japan that's looking at the human efficiency increase for deploying artificial intelligence. They want to deploy artificial intelligence to make a person perform better and better. And that's because they have so much of importance and interest in human excellence. So pay attention to the future. Present.
The next question, ma'am. The urbanization is being harmful to the fields in the villages. So that is going to have an impact on the future of India. Your comments.
Yeah, mindless urbanization is harmful. But mindful urbanization is not harmful. So we have to be mindful. We have to keep science and the art of urbanization and go carefully, not go mindlessly the way we have grown all these years. Last 70 years, we have grown mindlessly. So in fact, the Ministry for Urban Development was like an afterthought. It was the last ministry created by the government. So 70 years, Congress has not really understood the importance of urbanization. So they never bothered to create anything. So now we are paying attention to urbanization. It'll take a bit of a time because we messed with the planned development of cities. But our future is going to be good.
The next question, ma'am. Can artificial intelligence build the future?
I would say partially. I never put technology ahead of human genius. So I would like to say that technology has a great role. AI can be used everywhere, in augmented reality, in healthcare, in education, everything. AI has a great future, but AI taking over our lives, taking hold of our lives and taking us into the future, no, I'm not for it. I think there'll be a good balance between technology and human genius, and we will retain our senses. We will not go beyond what is not necessary, and then we'll plan. So it has a great role, but up to a point.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, that was the answer which you gave. Thank you for answering the questions, ma'am. Now may I request our Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Narayan Rao sir, to say a few words.
Yeah. Dear Mrs. Karuna Gopal, I wish to introduce myself as Professor Narayan Rao, Pro Vice Chancellor of the University. Your talk is outstanding, and I'm sure you ignited the minds about 200 young students who have been listening to you for the past 5 minutes. You have chosen the right topic, role in building new India. Yes, the Honorable Prime Minister in several webinars emphatically mentioned that national education policy is expected to formulate new India. And he gave several ideas to the young students, faculty members, educationists, and policymakers. So I agree with you that now it is India's turn. Our time has come. Now
Yes.
India's turn. We are poised to become leader of the world. Though young
Yes.
students may laugh at my statements, I will substantiate in the next couple of minutes. You also mentioned learned helplessness. Yes, I also feel that every Indian is a caged tiger. We do not know
Yes.
who has put the cage. Whether we put the cage on our own or somebody has put it. Now it is time for the youngsters to come out of the cages. Every Indian is a caged tiger. Now, somebody has asked a question. You are describing our past glory. How about the current situation? I wish to answer to him and the people who have such a question in their mind. Let us thank COVID-19. When we were pandemic in the month of March, we have been looking to developed countries such as US and others. They also have been struggling. And in fact, they begged us or threatened us to give hydrochloroquine. This country has donated hydrochloroquines to US and other countries. And then in the last 4 or 5 months, we developed our own low-cost ventilators,
Yes.
needed pharmaceuticals and masks. In this country, in the last 6 months, thanks to the Prime Minister and the government, there was no paucity of any material in this country, whether dal, milk, or pharmaceuticals. Whereas a developed country like US, there was a paucity
Yes.
even for paracetamol.
Yes.
So this country has demonstrated its strength. I will use Hindi. पिछले 6 महीनों में भारत ने अपनी ताकत को दुनिया को दिखाया. I don't know how many students will understand.
Yes.
The country has demonstrated its capabilities to the world in the last 6 months. Coming to vaccines, even now India is the factory of vaccines for the world. I repeat,
Yes.
India is the factory for vaccines in the world. According to WHO, out of every 3 people who are vaccinated in the world, the vaccines are coming from India. 40 years back, India was a beggar for vaccines. Today, India is a donor of vaccines. We are donating to 107 countries. So my dear friend who asked the question, past glory, present is also glorious.
Oh, yes.
Also, coming to COVID-19 vaccines, yes, India along with other countries, we are developing vaccines. But India only has the capability to produce large number of vaccines. Hello?
Yes,
Are
sir,
you
you're
able to
audible, sir. You're audible,
Yeah.
sir.
Along with India, Bharat Biotech and others, other countries may be able to produce vaccines, invent vaccines or develop vaccines. But this country only has the capability of mass production in the world and no other country. So the past was glorious, the present is promising, and future will be much brighter. you all youngsters have a big role to play in formulating new India. The earlier generation did not have that many opportunities as the present generation. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now may I request Somesh Tiwari, sir, to propose the vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, Madam. At the very onset, I would like to thank Ms. Karuna Gopal for her enlightened talk, her wide area touching the young minds, students at the age of 18, how the three mantra, which I could hear clearly as fearlessness, courage, how we need to work as a team player and find ourselves, each and every role of us in nation building. So how the young freshmen, how young students can contribute to nation and as someone said, can make the nation a better place to live in, continuous growth, promising growth, touching each and every aspect, and how India can very soon be a world leader lies on the shoulders of our young and bright minds. So once again, I would like to thank on behalf of the entire university and management, Ms. Karuna Gopal for her enlightening talk. And I'm very, very sure this enlightening talk, once the students step in the shoes of their first year, first semester, move over to greater minds, achieve greater heights, and make this nation a superpower. So I would like to also thank Professor V.S. Rao sir, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Narayan Rao sir, and Revati Madden, Assistant Director, Student Affairs, for conducting this entire series of motivational talk for our young freshmen. Thank you, Madam.
Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And in future, ma'am, we look forward to you coming to our university too, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All right, children. Now we'll take a very, very short break and we'll continue with our next session. So we'll have a very short break and post-break, we'll have the next session.